What's up, family? Welcome back to another legendary reaction video. So we got Anthony Edwards gets destroyed by Magic Johnson. With no further ado, family, give this video a big thumbs up and let's get straight into the video.
Quote, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then.
Wait, that was very contradicting. I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. So if you didn't watch it back in the day, so you can't speak on it, then how you speak on something that you said you couldn't speak on? What the?
On it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then.
Come again?
I don't think anybody had skill back then.
Which is 2 of 11. Robinson with the steal. He's got Anderson.
It's very ironic that he say that because a lot of people say Anthony Edwards was just playing somewhat of Michael Jordan tendencies a little bit within his game. But how can you say they didn't have skill back then if a lot of things that's taking place today, those skills are still being incorporated today with our own little twist being uniquely tied to players that are currently playing today. So if anything, they always, a flashy pass has been done back then, or, you know, a step back ankle breaker like with Larry Bird or something, step backs. Those things have been always been, those things back then are being displayed today, just uniquely different as the game continues to evolve, as individuals are uniquely being innovative with the skill. Like, for example, James Harden's step back is different from Larry Bird's step back. But however you put it, it's still got, James Harden got his unique twist to it. But however you put it, it's still a step back that was from back then. You know what I'm saying, family? Like, come on now.
Able to score 40 points, he was liable to score nothing. He's very erratic, but he can do it when he's out.
Oh, check that shot out, will you?
Didn't touch anything but molecules.
The ultimate finger roll. Oh, no, you got the glass.
It comes off. Jones wanted it, but Magic wants it more. Dribble behind.
Magic is built from a flashy pass.
I want to apologize to all of you for what I did. It was very wrong, and I am very sorry. I just would like to move on and lead a normal life. You know, get a job and a wife, and change my ways.
When it comes to current-day players in the NBA, it's a very trendy thing to downplay past eras and really act like basketball started in 2016. Now, the latest player to make a fool of himself is Anthony Edwards.
And he's a young guy, you know what I'm saying? He was like 20-something. So he's big-headed. You know how that goes. Operating out of ignorance, because that whole statement was just contradicting, hypocritical, and just ignorance.
Of course, Edwards downplayed the 80s and 90s, saying Jordan was the only skilled player from that decade. And the sad thing about Edwards, a lot of 80s, 90s fans, they kind of embraced him as the guy who had that old school mentality, play all the games, play hard, and play defense. But of course, comments like these just show pure ignorance and lack of knowledge about past eras. And when speaking about the 1980s, the biggest superstar from that era, the most accomplished star from that era, is of course Magic Johnson. And Magic most times doesn't really speak out, criticize players, at least not publicly. But Magic in this instance absolutely eviscerated one Anthony Edwards.
I don't never respond to a guy that's never won a championship.
So now Anthony Edwards is going to have to be quiet and work for that accolade and get himself a championship if he want to have any type of substantial conversation, or if he want to bring any type of substance to a conversation like this. Because my man, bro, all you can do is humble yourself, take it on the chin, hold yourself accountable, and you better go get yourself a championship. You better work hard the way you over here talking like this out of ignorance, bro.
There's not nothing to really say. He didn't win a college championship. I don't know if he even won a high school championship.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Wow, that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious. But yeah, man, it's the truth. All he can do is take it on the chin and go get them accolades. What he got I mean, what, he won a trophy in high school and middle school, I believe. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. One or the other. and he got a Olympic gold medal. I mean, what else? Nothing else really, right?
It's pretty crazy to think Magic Johnson nowadays is regarded as an unskilled player who played in an unskilled era. And this right here, I'd say, is specific to NBA fans as well as NBA players. As looking at baseball, football, you don't see people saying Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, they were trash, Joe Montana was garbage, or someone like Reggie Jackson, Barry Bonds, they couldn't last in today's MLB.
Heck no.
You don't really see that.
Nope.
And you gotta ask the question, why is it specific to basketball fans? I think the answer is actually quite simple. Social media is the culprit for all.
I believe so. Social media has ignited basketball to be made more so viewed from a controversial standpoint, let alone political standpoint. And it sort of takes away from the game in general, where individuals can spread ignorance like this, let alone be messy and just speak blatant, old, straightforward, bold lies, you know?
Nonsense. And looking at NBA fans, they skew very, very young, especially on social media. As looking at Instagram, for example, this platform is exclusively people under 35, and their largest demo is 18 to 24. And looking at Instagram, the NBA, 88.8 million followers, an absurd amount. Now the NFL, only 30.3. If you went off social media purely, you'd think basketball was much more popular, just a better overall sport. But looking at the ratings, the interest, NFL every single year destroys the NBA. And once again, social media, it skews very, very young. NFL fans, I'd say the majority of them much older, see numerous decades, going back to the 80s, even 1970s. NBA fans, mostly 18 to 24, especially online. And
the NBA is being very effective and intentional of continuing to recruit younger fans to keep the fan base growing and evolving over time, to let alone add value to the NBA from a business perspective, where they continue to, you know, grow as a league and continue to expand, not only just within America, but from an international standpoint, which they have done a very good job at it. Because if you want to be technical, the reason why the NBA has more 80 million followers on Instagram and the NFL has 30 million followers on Instagram is because the NFL is like an old papa or old papa trying to catch up to the NBA, who is the modern papa. You know what I'm saying? Because the NFL is known for standing on hard grit American football in America, and the NBA has always been intentional about being international, and now recruiting more international players than ever. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, you know, players like that. Still have American basketball players involved, obviously, but that younger fan base, they continue to evolve with and gravitate and connect with them in any way, shape, or form, and continue to be innovative when it comes to connecting with the younger fan base, with the All-Star games, the social media, the polls, the voting, and just that user interaction, let alone being up to speed on how to be interactive with the modern times when it comes with technology. So it can also come with a lot of big-headed, egotistical, know-it-all young individuals, as young individuals are mainly known for, which they never really been through no real-life experiences. They may learn the history of basketball, but they have never seen it, just like Anthony Edwards said, or been there back then, but feel as though they have enough or feel validated enough based off the user experience on social media to feel like they have enough substance to talk on and have a substantial point, when it's really just egotistical out of ignorance, right?
Look at Magic in his era, this guy's peak, his apex, was in the late 80s, specifically 1987. And if you look at the NBA at that point, the talent, the skill, it was higher than almost every year since or before. And using the top 75 list as a gauge for how great this era was, at this point in 87, there were 17 players on that list playing in the current NBA. That's roughly 24% of the greatest players of all time. Kareem, Barkley, Bird, Julius Erving, Magic, Jordan, Moses, McHale, Hakeem, the list goes on and on and on. And looking at those 17 players right there, only 5 of them weren't all-stars. And even then, those guys were all-star caliber and honestly snubbed of that all-star game, as Karl Malone was a walking 22-10, 50% shooting, all-star caliber. Patrick Ewing, 22-9 with 2 blocks, only missed the game due to injuries. Clyde Drexler, 22-7-6 with 2 steals, somehow missed the all-star game. The only guy who wasn't in their prime and all-star yet was John Stockton. But even then, Stockton the next year in '88 would lead the NBA in assists as a first-time full starter. Long story short, the mid-'80s, they were absolutely loaded. And looking at the '87 All-Star game, it is the Eastern Conference. They had 9 players on the top
Look at it, man.
5 all-time list. And their 5 starters, all of them made the list.
Impressive. Very nice.
You could spend your time.
I mean, I think it's self-explanatory. I don't know if we'll ever have an era like that again in the NBA, right? Full of greats like that, stacked on top of each other.
Now, when talking about the MVP, one of the best years of all time for that award was 1988. Not just because of the winner of the award, but the depth of the candidates. And looking at this list, I mean, star-studded top to bottom. Of course, first place you have Jordan, 35 points per game, the MVP, and the DPOY. He could jump out of the gym, he was lightning quick. I mean, the best version of Jordan to a lot of people.
Facts.
Beneath him, Larry Joe Bird, 29.9 points per game on 53-41 and 92 splits. In all league history, only Steph Curry had a higher scoring average than the 54-90 season, that of course being in 2016. And I'd say Steph was a pretty skilled player. Now beneath Bird, you had Magic. Magic at this point, the best passer of all time, bar.
Now we all know Magic and Bird was toe-to-toe.
And of course in the midst of winning back-to-back championships. 4th place Charles Barkley, what we thought Zion could be, Barkley actually was. Beneath Barkley at 5th place, you have Clyde Drexler, who if it wasn't for Jordan would get much more shine. Beneath Drexler, Dominique, overshadowed by Bird, 30 points per game this year. 7th place came Olajuwon, the most skilled big man of all time, at his apex at 25 years old. Beneath Hakeem, Karl Malone, 24 years old. 10th place, John Stockton, the NBA's assist leader. 11th place, Alex English, the guy who showed most points in the 80s. And 12th place, Isaiah Thomas, a 2-time champion. When looking at the '88 MVP race, 11 of the 12 finishers were first ballot Hall of Famers. The only guy who wasn't was Fat Lever. I mean, it once again proved this league was absolutely stacked and loaded. Now, once again, looking back at Ant Edwards, he already is a very good player.
Fat Lever played for the... He played for the Denver Nuggets. I never heard of him before. 6.9 points. He was a point guard. 6'3".
With potential to be a great player. And of course, these comments kind of sour a lot of fans on him as a player and his ceiling. As in talking about NBA legends, the cream of the crop, the top 1%, what do all those guys have in common? They respect the game, know the history, and go to former legends for advice on their game and how to improve it. Case in point, with someone like Kobe.
At the time, I deal with what I've referred to as Goat Mountain. I went to Goat Mountain, and I talked to Magic, Michael, Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Jerry West, Oscar Robinson, Bill Russell.
They're greats, man. They know it best, man. Came before you.
You know, so I would talk to them. What did you do? What were your experiences?
What you saw right there from Kobe is the definition of being a student of the game and learning the game. And for someone like Bill Russell back in the day, he was the godfather of the NBA. He'd seen the 60s, the 70s, all the way up to the 2020s. He'd basically seen everything and everyone. And when Kobe went to Russell, one of the past legends, he learned a thing or two about how to win a championship in his post-Shaq career.
He said, when I played, I could score the ball. I could handle the ball, and I could pass the ball. But it was really important. In order for us to win, I had to look at my teammates and say, okay, there's other players here that do that better. Therefore, I must allow them to do that. And I thought that was a very, very insightful thing that I used in how I was able to go on and win those 2 championships post-Shaq.
So, stopping right there, Kobe, again, a student of the game, and sought out advice from the elders. And here's the funny thing, Bill Russell, he was drafted in the 1950s. Kobe, the late 90s. That's roughly a 40-year gap when age...
Yeah, big gap.
...playing days. And despite that, Kobe went to Russell for advice and knowledge, and it paid off with 2 more championships. My point being, if Anthony Edwards wants to be a truly great NBA player, you gotta go back to the legends, take bits and pieces of their game, and apply it to your own.
Yep.
So that right there is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
Comment down below, family. Do you feel like Anthony Edwards need to humble himself and go to the greats and seek wisdom instead of spreading ignorance? I do. I agree. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give this video a big thumbs up. With no further ado, family. Peace.